All right, good morning. How you all doing? This chilly Wednesday morning, this 19th day of March 2025. Hope you're well. This beautiful morning from wherever it is that you're joining us from. We're glad that you could join us. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us. Of course, like we always say, we know you're busy people, but of course, you do take the time to give us a piece of your day every day, and we definitely do not take that for granted. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. We also do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will be getting back to you. If you have any requests or any comments, any criticism, feel free to send them in. I will also be looking at them and highlighting them, but towards the very tail end of this session. But like we always say, you don't really need to wait until the very end. You still can ask or put them in the chat box even as the session does continue progressing on. And of course, for the guys who are going to be joining us watching this later on, feel free to also leave a comment in the video comment section, and also remember to like and subscribe. And of course, that goes out to everyone. So we're going to jump straight into business. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list for today. So let me get that up real quick. So this is the watch list for today. You can see there's been a couple of changes in comparison to what we had yesterday. The Australian dollar and the US dollar moving to the sell side. And of course, the Swiss franc going to the buy side. But that's pretty much the only changes that we do have. So we'll start off with the currency pairs that we had yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. Let's see what transpired, what we can learn from what happened. So we'll start off with the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out and also some illustration of what to expect. So expecting price to possibly tap within here before the market move to the upside, but you can see the market just started going up, tapped within that region, came down aggressively, something that you will see across the board with the rest of the Swiss franc pairs. I guess the CHFs yesterday were quite uncooperative. So for this one, unfortunately, there wasn't much of a buy. You can see that even when price came back in within that region, there was really nothing to tell us to look for buying opportunities. Price came all the way back in, tapped within this area, but you can see that price is just struggling within that particular region. So unfortunately, moving into today, not really a currency pair, we will be trying to see whether we can trade, because you could easily find that the market could be moving sideways, and we definitely do not want to sign up for that. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out, and I was expecting possibly to get price coming back in within this region. I had pointed out that it wasn't such a good idea to really look or chase the buys, high up within here, unless maybe price broke to the upside. So price came back in within here. You can see that at around 3, which is during the US session open. Price was back here. Unfortunately, there was no sign of big bars showing up. And you can see, I guess the sellers were quite adamant. And you can see that price did actually break to the downside. So unfortunately, also for us on that one, there wasn't much in terms of a buying opportunity. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're also expecting to get some buying opportunities, which unfortunately did not quite show up. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. And also this particular region here that I also had added that maybe, possibly, we could have gotten maybe some action from the buyers, considering the fact that price had reacted off that region before. Fortunately, we couldn't get that. Price came down. No sign of the big boys within this particular region in terms of buys. So also for this one, there wasn't really any buying opportunity. And unfortunately, moving into today, also not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can trade. So moving on into the last CHF pair, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So in the morning, price was here. I had pointed out that maybe if we get the price maybe moving up higher, we got a proper pullback coming in. Maybe we could have gotten some buying opportunity within there. But unfortunately, you can't see that price just fooled around within this region, broke to the downside, and actually held to the downside, this region here. And you can see that later on from around 4:30 during the US session open, price did actually push itself down, came back in within here, but also within that particular region. Unfortunately, no sign of the big boys within that particular area. So you can see across the board, just looking at all the CHFs, there's also correlation in as much as the buys didn't work, but all of them coming down that tells us that the big boys are possibly interested in buying the Swiss franc, and that's the reason why we've switched sides or switched the Swiss franc in terms of taking it out of the sell side and putting it on the buy side, because maybe it seems that that is what the big boys could potentially be interested in. And since they're the market movers, whatever they're interested in, we just have to comply. We can't go against them. So we will be trying to see whether we can join them in buying the Swiss franc. So the next two currency pairs are the yens that we had yesterday. So we have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. So yesterday in the morning, price was somewhere here. We're expecting price to move up higher, come back in and actually hold within here for us to look for the buys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So the price went up higher, came back in, and you can see that it actually broke and held to the downside of this particular region right here. You can see that from around 3 moving into 430, price pushed itself off that particular area. So it's also very important, to note where the market is within the times that we keep on pointing out. So you can see that price came down, bounced off here. Right now, it seems like the market is attempting to push to the upside. We'll have to wait and see whether we will get that weakness on the yen coming in. So, I mean, if you do have trade on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen, even if you won't be looking for any more opportunities, but as long as you do end up managing, there's a possibility price could get to the top. We're actually expecting a lot of movement on the yen pairs because there were some interest rate decisions that happened early in the morning, but they were quite uneventful. Maybe the London big boys or the US big boys might actually end up using that information. But one thing we've realized, and you will see even as we look at the rest of the yens for today, quite a number of them have already started moving to the upside. So you can see, like also for this one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So it was either the market to break and hold above here for us to look for the buys, but you can see that the breach was also quite weak. And most of the time when the market breaks and just sits on a particular level, it can be a bit tricky. That's the reason why we always want to see the market maybe move away from a particular level, come back in and give us a proper entry. So you can see that this one, even if you got the buys here, the highest part was there. You can see that's exactly where the buyers got up until before the sellers did push the market down. Price came back in within this particular region here, but it was a bit late or later. So you can see that this was at around 9. Price pushed itself off to the upside. If for whatever reason you got the buys there, then I guess it's just a matter of hanging on and seeing how much more further the market could potentially end up going. So before we jump into the currency pairs for today, let's just have a quick look at some of the screenshots we did get from yesterday's activity. So we'll start off with this one from Alvin. So Alvin, if you're watching, shout out to you. So this is on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see right there, you had 2 attempts. So the first attempt was unsuccessful, but you're a real fighter on the charts. So you got stopped out, waited for the market to reset itself. And I guess on the second attempt, you did make it out successfully. So you got the trade right there, which was good. Definitely seems like some sort of a buyer's region. You can see that the buyers have reacted off here a number of times. And of course, off that region, the market pushed itself to the upside and you came out somewhere within that region, which is okay. The other attempt, not bad. But like we always say, it's always good to have a stop loss. So even if the market stopped you out, doesn't necessarily make you a bad trader. I mean, even the best traders do get stopped out. That trade just wasn't for you, but at least on the second attempt, you did make it out alive and you did get some profits out of it. So shout out to you, Alvin, for that. So the next screenshot we do have is from Dan Bickett. So this is on the NAS 100. So for this one, I can't see you got a sell. And I know that yesterday we were trying to see whether we could get sells, and the sells eventually worked. I know the last 2 days we did have some issues, but at least yesterday the sells did work, and it's good to see you got the sell high up within there. Quite a sniper entry, if I do say so. Very hard entry for many people to get, but Dan Bickett, you're a real cowboy on the charts. So you got the sell right there, precision entry, price started to come down. I can see that your stop loss is beneath at least your point of entry, but just above these sellers who are in control of the market. You're still hanging on to this trade. Shout out to you, but we will also be looking at the NAS 100 to see what the game plan is going to be. But shout out to you for that, Dan Bickett, and keep up the good work. So we also did get a screenshot from George. So this is on the US dollar against the Japanese yen, which we just looked at. It's interesting to see that you actually got the buy. In fact, this one is the one that we just looked at right now. You can see it on the background. So Like I was pointing out, it was a bit late, but it's interesting to see that you actually got the buy and you waited for price to come back in within the region that I had pointed out, and you got the buy there, stop loss already above your point of entry, take profit high up within that particular region there. I think your take profit must be almost clipped. Maybe I'm just thinking because it seems like price is already moving up, but of course, even if you do manage your trade, even if you move your stop loss higher, it's not really a good trading habit. But ideally, even if you do keep on moving your stop losses higher and higher, then at least maybe you could actually end up making some more profits on that. But shout out to you for that, George. That was a very, very good trade. So keep up the good work. So we also did get some two screenshots from Charlotte. So this is on silver. So I can see that you got a buying opportunity on this one. The market pulled back within this region. You waited, which was good, and you bought where the buyers were, which is exactly where you should have gotten the buy. I can't see that your take profit is just at the high, somewhere within that particular region, which is good. Let's hope that the market gets there. I know that the market has really fooled around within this particular region here, but at least even your stop loss could be higher, maybe somewhere just beneath these buyers who are pushing up, just to make sure that you also cut down on your risk. But in terms of where you got the buy, this is very, very good, and good to see that at least you are not too afraid of the sellers who are coming in within that particular region quite aggressively. But that's the advantage of buying with buyers and selling with sellers. So shout out to you for that, Charlotte. And last but not least, you also did get gold. So I can see that you got the buy on this one, somewhere within this particular region here. I think your stop loss is within your point of entry, which is okay. Good to see that you got the trade on the pullback. So the market went up, pulled back in, you got the buy there, like keep on pointing out, always wait for the pullback. And of course, from that particular region, the market started to move higher up. So this was also some very, very good trading. So shout out to you for that, Charlotte. So shout out to Alvin, Dan Bickett, George, and Charlotte. You guys were the real winners yesterday on the charts. Remember, guys, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are there. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp. We'd be more than happy to see what you guys are up to. They don't necessarily have to be the best trades in the world because this is not a competition. Just embrace where you are. If they're bad trades, it's okay. We will give you advice, and over time, you definitely will see improvement. Some of the guys who send in their screenshots now that you see used to have some very horrible trades back in the day, but over time you definitely see the progression, and that's what gives us the joy to keep on doing what it is that we do. So make sure that you send in your screenshots. Also feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are also there. I mean, you can use the same contact details, and we will give you the best advice and the best help we can give you to make your trading that much better. So shifting gears into matters today. So hopefully we've taken note of what the watch list is going to be looking like. So you can see a couple of changes. On the fundamental front, there's been a lot of news events that came out early morning. Like I pointed out, there were some yen interest rate decisions that came out that were quite uneventful. But maybe as we progress through the day, maybe the London big boys and the US big boys could use that information, in as much as there was no change in the interest rates, but there were also quite a number of news events that were also coming out for the yens. So hopefully we will see that weakness coming in. You can already see that some of the yens, the weakness has already started coming. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. But moving forward, you can see that there will also be a lot of news events today. So some Euro CPIs, hopefully maybe that could bring in some volatility on the Euros. And there will also be some interest rate decisions for the US. That's going to be at around 9 p.m. later on today. So quite a number of interest rate decisions that are going to be coming up. In fact, they're all summarized here. If you go to your economic calendar, somewhere within this region to the right, you will find all the dates for the interest rates for the various currency pairs. So you can see the Fed for the US today. The ECB will be on the 17th of April, which is next month. But we also do have for the Great British Pound and the Swiss franc, which is going to be happening tomorrow as well. So just make sure that you also do watch out for that. So I guess it's going to be pretty interesting day on the charts. We'll see what happens. So we're going to start off with the yen pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions I had pointed out. So In the morning, price was somewhere here. I pointed out it's okay. You shouldn't really feel bad about the market going up. Just wait for the pullback. The pullback did come in. And I hope this serves as a good example of why patience is key. Sometimes the market looks like it's gone. And you can imagine there was a ninja who hit a buy somewhere here thinking that the market would never come down, but they all just needed to wait. You can see that the market did actually come back in within some sort of a buyer's region. And in as much as the market has really struggled to pick up from within this area, whoever got the buy down here, they're definitely in profit right now, as opposed to someone who got the buy high up within that particular region. So patience is key. So for this one, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. Right now, in terms of looking for the buying opportunity, might not really be the best of ideas. Wait and see if at least we can get the price pushing above this region to the upside. Might even attack this region right there. And if the market pulls back in within this region, at that point in time, if you look for the buying opportunity, you will be better off as opposed to attempting the buy now, because you're not too sure whether the market will actually make it past this region to the upside. In as much as the big boys and correlation on the yen is showing that the market is starting to make a move to the upside, but since you don't want to end up gambling, you're better off waiting for the pullback. At least that will give you that much more assurance and confidence. So let's wait and see what happens there. If the market reacts off this region here to the downside, and it can't do that, it might easily come back in within this area here. And at least that's the reason why I'm saying for people who got the buys down here, I mean, their stop losses are already at break even. Whatever happens, their risk is already mitigated. If you look for a buy here, then you're exposing yourself to this move that could potentially end up getting you. So watch out for that. Also watch out for this region at the bottom right here. Definitely the last area where we will be attempting our last buying opportunities in case the market finds its way back within there. But in case the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas I have pointed out, which are the similar areas for today. So yesterday morning, price was here. We're expecting price to push up higher, then come back in, potentially hold above here for us to look for the buys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. You can see that the market broke and held to the downside. Then you can see that at 4:30, the market attempted to come to the downside. Fortunately, couldn't come back in all the way till within here, but there was some sort of a nested narrow. You can see some push of the buyers of this region to the upside. And I guess that price was good enough, because even if I were to put a level somewhere within here, you can see that the market came down and bounced off this region even earlier today to push itself to the upside. So for this one, for today, the levels that we will be watching out for are these three areas right here. So let me just clear this minor scenario that I've just put in. So we do have a conservative somewhere within here, semi-aggressive conservative somewhere within this particular region here, and the aggressive area is going to be somewhere within here. So in terms of looking for the buys, don't look for the buys now. Wait for the breach to the upside. If we get that breach, the market holds to the upside, maybe even some attempts, by the sellers to actually push to the downside of this area, which end up being unsuccessful. And you get some pin bars, some probes within here, the better. And also watch out for the times. If that happens, and let's say price is back in within here, maybe during the US session, I think potentially you could find some very, very good buying opportunities. So it might need the London session to do all this. Then at least once it sets itself up during the US session, you could get a very good buy. So that's the first scenario. Of course, the other scenario would be in case the market does react off that region to the downside, then we easily could find the market back within here. And considering that this is still a major level, there is a high possibility that if the price comes back in within here, this price might not be good enough, and that might mean that price might come in a bit lower, maybe somewhere back within this region. So just make sure that you also do have that in mind as well. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. For this one, yesterday, we're watching out for buys. You can see the three areas I had pointed out. Similar situation with the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen to some extent. So price went up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a proper hold within here. You can see that the price really struggled, within this particular area. But there's also some sort of an SNR that's somewhere within here. And that's the reason why we've adjusted the level just slightly higher to incorporate that. So if we do get a breach of that region to the upside, then maybe on the pullback, we could attempt some buying opportunity. But right now, let the big boys do their thing. So let's see how far they can push. And it's okay, even if the market goes up all the way high. Remember, like we saw on the euro against the Japanese yen, the market went so high up, but still came back in. So you just need to be patient. So just make sure that you factor that in. Also watch out for the times. And of course, if everything does end up aligning, you potentially could get a very, very good trading opportunity on that one. So the next one, the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. It broke to the upside, came back in, held within here. But you can see that even if you got the buys here, price was just going to come back in within the highest part that the price had actually broken high up until. And that's the reason why sometimes it's best to let the market go very high, and it's okay even if you don't get that trade. But of course, the higher it goes off a particular region. You know, if, like for example, you get the buy within here, then definitely that region at the top is where you should be targeting. So for this one, you can't see that it didn't go that far up. So if you got the buys here and you overlooked this region, then unfortunately you had to, you know, end up bearing all this nonsense when the market was coming to the downside. So for this one, let's see what happens. Hopefully the big boys are going to be interested. And across the board on the yen, it seems like the big boys are slowly coming in. They're starting to build some momentum. Let's see if that carries on throughout the day. But at least on the pullback, like we keep on pointing out, let's wait and see if we can get some proper buying opportunity on this one. Also watching out for these two other areas. Bit of a long shot down there, but it's very possible for price to come back in within that particular region. So moving on into the last one, this is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one, we will be watching out also to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. This one seems like it's moving the most, but I think also because the big boys are also quite interested in the CHF pairs. So this one is moving up high. Don't really end up chasing the buys right now. Definitely lots of guys are hitting buys as the market is moving up higher and higher. And that's how 95% of the people end up losing. So just wait for the pullback. I mean, the market has just broken this region. There's a possibility price will come back in within this area. You can see that the market has been breaking levels and more or less coming back in within levels. So it's in some sort of an upward trend. So there's a high probability and a possibility price will come back in within here. So you just need to set an alert and wait and see what does end up happening. So make sure that you watch out for that. At least if the pullback comes back in within this region, maybe during the London session, we get a nice pullback, we can read and we see signs of the big boys showing up, definitely we can end up hitting some buying opportunities there. So make sure you watch out for that. Watch out for your risk. You know, they say a trader who doesn't have any risk management is easy prey for the markets. So I don't really think you want to be easy prey for the big boys or become some sort of liquidity provider to them. So you're better off also watching out for your risk. And part of that, over and above trading with the stop losses, making sure that you're also getting your trades exactly where you should be getting them. So that's pretty much it for the yen pairs. So we're going to move on to the AUD pairs and mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we're going to start off with the euro against the Australian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. And we will be attempting to see whether we can get some buying opportunities on this one. So hopefully you can take note of these three regions right here. So you can see some sort of pullback is coming in, which is good. So hopefully the market slows down within this area. You can see that the price had actually broken above this region yesterday. It kind of pulled back in within here. So I'm expecting if price comes back in, maybe it might go slightly lower than this, could get some sort of a probe, some sort of spikes, you know, maybe pin bars within this region before the market moves to the upside. And at least if that happens and the big boys show up, we're looking at about 40 pips or 45 pips to the upside, which is quite decent. So let's wait and see what happens, but also watch out for the red SNR. In case the pullback comes in deeper and the big boys need that price, then at least we should be ready for that, but well aware that that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting our aggressive buying opportunities. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. So we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we've mapped out. So you can see that the market bounced off this region, came up, tapped within this area here. let's just hope that the market can actually just come back in somewhere as close as possible within this region, maybe even attempt to break to the upside. If the big sellers do show up, potentially, I think we could get a very good selling opportunity within here. The good thing about this one is you can't see that the market has actually been coming down. So at least we're joining the flow of where the market is already going. At least the pullback is coming in. You can see signs of buyers. Just need to get the price within the proper area, because if you get the sell within this region here coming down, the risk to reward might not really be worth it. And risk to reward is very key when it comes to trading. So the closer we can get the price within here, the better for us. So also watch out for this region at the top. At least if the market comes back in within there, we also do have a bunch of sellers who are sitting within that region, and more or less the sellers who actually push the market to the downside sitting within that particular area. In case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, unfortunately, there will be no selling opportunity for us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So you can see that the buyers went up quite aggressively yesterday during the US session. The market hit a region where we do have some sellers. They are reacting. Consider their reaction is pretty slow, which is good, because ideally we don't really want to see the aggressive sellers, but there's a probability and a high possibility price will be coming back in within here. You can see how aggressively the market broke this region to the upside. So we could be expecting a retest of this region right here, and potentially we could get the market lifting. So let's wait and see. Maybe during the London session at 11. If that doesn't happen, then hopefully maybe during the US session from around 4:30, we could get the market lifting to the upside, and hopefully the market will potentially break this region to the upside, especially if these big boys do end up showing up again, from somewhere within this region. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing your money management high up within that region. If it breaks, it's a good thing, but it's not given, and it's not a guarantee that price is going to breach to the upside. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, this is also a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we've marked out. You can see that the sellers came down aggressively. There was some sort of a probe there. The market seems to be holding above a region of support. The buyers seem to be starting to do their thing. Let's see if they can at least push the market back within here, because this is definitely also a region of interest. You can see that the market broke to the downside of this region quite aggressively. There wasn't a proper retest of that region. So at least if we get the price somewhere as close as possible within here, I think we could get a very, very good selling opportunity on this one. So let's wait and see what happens. Of course, if you get the sell there, could target here or maybe even lower, but definitely you will need to manage within this particular region, even if you will be targeting areas much, much lower. So make sure that you also factor that into your trading. So last but not least, for the AUD pairs, we do have the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, before we come into today, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. And I had pointed out that based on how the sellers had come down, I was expecting maybe they could have attempted to come down low. And once they were completely out of their orders, maybe that's when the market would have gone to the upside. But it seems that the market just actually bounced off this region to the upside, came up on the pullback. When the market came back in, unfortunately, the buyers were nowhere to be seen. It's like they had completely vanished off this particular area. Price broke to the downside, bounced off this region to the downside. There was definitely no buy at that point in time. And you can see that also price did breach to the downside of this region. And also when that happened, there was definitely no trade. So it's like the buyers showed up then for the remainder of the day. They were completely out of the way. So for this one, for today, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. The big boys do seem quite interested in the CHF pairs, and it's also quite evident based on how the market came down. It's hit some sort of a support region here, but we will be hopefully waiting to see if we can get, the market just fighting and just coming back in within this area here, and we could get some sort of a retest within that particular region before we have these big boy sellers showing up once again. So there's a bit of a struggle going on, but I wouldn't advise you to really look for the selling opportunities just yet. Maybe unless we get past this region to the downside, if the sellers do show up on the pullback, and pullbacks will always be there. you just need to be patient. Then maybe we could get some conservative selling opportunities. But for as long as price is holding above this region to the upside, it might not be such a good idea to look for the selling opportunities. The buyers could easily react. You could easily get taken all the way till within this region, or maybe even all the way till the top. And once you incur the loss, you'll be sitting there wondering, why couldn't you just wait? You just needed to be patient. So just make sure that you watch out for that. In fact, something that's popped in my mind is that there's a quote I think I saw somewhere that said that most traders are, they're profitable, logically speaking, but emotionally speaking, they are unprofitable because they constantly keep letting emotions, get in their way. But on paper, when they're thinking logically, the whole plan is very, very good. So just make sure that you don't end up being part of those. So we're going to move on to the next set of currency pairs, which are the USDs. So we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. And these ones are also quite new, quite a number of them. So for this one, the euro against the US dollar, which is the first one. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So right now you can see that the market has pulled back in within this region. It broke to the upside yesterday quite aggressively. You can see that the pullback has come in quite nice and easy, which is good. A retest of this particular region, we could get some proper buying opportunities lifting off here maybe during the London session. We just need to see signs of the big boys showing up. There's a possibility price might even tap in somewhere within these weeks right here. But I think if price comes back into the upside of this area and actually holds, you could actually use this point as a point of reference in terms of putting your stop loss. And if you get the buy within here, if you put your stops there, I think this might give you some decent risk to reward. So we're looking at a stop loss of about 12 coming up. That should give you about a 1:2.36. which is not too bad, 26 pips. At least if the market breaks above this region to the upside, then the higher the risk to reward. But we'll definitely have to wait and see what happens. But the good thing about this one is, if you look at how the sellers are reacting, the previous time when the market came up within this region, the buyers came up aggressive. Look at how the sellers reacted aggressively. The buyers have come up again, still aggressively, like they had the previous time. But if you look at the reaction of the seller, if you compare this move coming down and this one, there's definitely a major slowdown, which is what we like to see. But that's not enough. At least that's one part of the coin. So the other side is that we need to see what happens within here, because if we don't see a sign of the big boys showing up, then ideally the buys will definitely not work from there. Price could still come down all the way till within this region, even if it comes in slowly, only for the buyers to actually push the market to the upside aggressively. So just make sure that you also factor that in, but definitely all eyes should be on that one. Seems like maybe something that could potentially make a move during the London session. And also remember that we have the CPIs for the euro at around 1 p.m. So especially if the CPIs come out positive, I wouldn't be surprised to see that one shoot to the upside quite aggressively. So moving on to the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, also a new entrant on our watch list. So we will be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So watch out for these three areas right here. So the NZDs have been very strong the last couple of days. Consider this one has generally been going up all the way from Friday, the whole of Monday. And you can see yesterday the market did find some sort of consolidation happening within this region, maybe a region of resistance that it found there, but you can generally see that the sellers are not that strong. So for this one, there's a possibility price could come back in within this region here. And I'm thinking if we get price back in within here, maybe during the US session, we could easily end up getting the market moving to the upside. If the big boys do show up, potentially we will end up breaking this region to the upside and we could continue going long. So also watch out for the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but there's also a possibility price can also come back in within that region if the big boys do need that area. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. But if you're keen enough, you will see that this one looks similar to the euro against the US dollar. So there's some good correlation. You can see that the market went up, the sellers showed up aggressively, the buyers showed up aggressively. And right now, once the ball was thrown back to the sellers, you can see that they've struggled coming down compared to what they did before, which is a good sign. So we'll just be waiting to see if we can get a slowdown of the sellers within here, and hopefully the buyers showing up. Since there is good correlation between this one and the euro against the US dollar, just make sure that you do have a look at both. You could easily end up catching both as the market starts to turn to the upside. So this is a retest of this region. Maybe the market is just coming back in, to test regions within this area here, but at least if the market pushes back to the upside and we get the market holding, just like we looked at on the euro against the US dollar, you could use this region right here, some sort of SNR, for you to actually put your stop loss beneath. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But definitely we first need to see the sign of the big boys showing up. And at least if you get the buy there, definitely you should be at least targeting somewhere within here. It's going to give you more or less the same risk to reward as what we saw on the euro against the US dollar. But at least if it ends up going up higher, because there's a possibility it could go up higher, the USDs, seems like the big boys are also really starting to dump the USD. So we could find the market potentially moving up higher. So watch out for that as well. So moving on into the next one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. So for this one, we will be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So the aggressive area is right there. Semi-aggressive conservative region is somewhere within there, and the conservative region is somewhere within this particular area here. So you can see that the market came down yesterday or the day before. This was on Monday, actually. So yesterday it was in this sort of consolidation that was happening. Maybe the big boy is getting ready, but let's see if we could get price coming back in somewhere within this particular region here. And at least if we get the buyers slowing down and the sign of the big sellers showing up, there are definitely some sellers who are sitting within this area here. So we could potentially end up using them in terms of pushing the market lower. But also remember that there are also the big sellers who are sitting somewhere higher up within here. So we could also find that in case the buyers don't slow down within this area and the market actually breaks and holds to the upside of this region, we could find price coming back in somewhere within this region here. But there's also an alert that's been set somewhere within here by some of our team who are looking for selling opportunities, maybe if the market shows up within here. Although this one is more on swing type of setup, but there's also a possibility price could also tap back in within this area. If it does, there are some snipers on our team who are actually looking to see if they could get the selling opportunities within that area. So you can also potentially watch out for that. So last but not least, for all the currency pairs and on the USDs, we have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. I pointed out that we're expecting price to break and hold above this region for us to look for the buys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Price came in lower. And you can see that when price came back in within this region, unfortunately, we just couldn't get a sign of the big buyers showing up. And you can see that the market just struggled within here. And unfortunately, you can see that price broke beneath this region to the downside. And at that point in time, there was definitely no trade for us. So for today, since the bias has shifted on this one, so we'll be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we've mapped out where potentially we could get some good selling opportunities, and also areas where we can manage our trades. So right now the market is bouncing off this region of support down here. Let's just hope that the market could come in somewhere as close as possible within this region. If it does, I think there could be some very good sells there. You can see that there are some big sellers within that region, and at least in terms of risk to reward, keeping our stop losses quite lean, this might be the best area to look for the selling opportunities. In case the market doesn't give us that pullback, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if we could get price potentially breaking to the downside of this region on the pullback back within here. Then we could try and see whether we could possibly end up joining the big boys in terms of their selling opportunities. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, especially considering the fact that the CHFs are showing a lot of strength. You can see that they've really started to make a move for it from Monday coming down. Yesterday, some sort of a choppy, messy pullback coming in here, similar to what had happened within this particular region here. So let's just hope price will just potentially come back in within this area. I'll even set an alert there. I think that's the best area to look for the selling opportunities. We just need to be patient. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So hopefully for the guys who joined in a bit late, feel free to take note of that. So we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. And you can see that on that front, there isn't much of a change. It's only the NAS 100 that's still on the sell side of things. Everything else is on the buy side. So starting off with the NAS 100, for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten selling opportunities, and also is the case today. It was good to see Dan Bickett from the screenshots. You actually did get a very good sell coming down on this one. So yesterday, you can't see what the game plan was. Price was somewhere here. I pointed out that at least if we get the market coming back to the downside of this region right here, we could end up looking for some selling opportunities. The market was in some sort of a range within here. And I pointed out that in case the market comes back within the range, then potentially we could get the market coming down till within this region. So it's not yet come down all the way till within this area here. So it broke to the downside. We're expecting maybe some sort of a retest of price within this area here. That's a reason why you can't see that there's also an alert that's been set somewhere within there by some of our team who are definitely keeping their eyes locked on that particular region there, so that if price comes back in within that area, then at least should be able to end up taking some sales. You can see that the pullback coming in is also quite choppy and quite messy, which is good. So we'll be waiting to hopefully see if we could get price potentially coming back in, somewhere within this region. And hopefully if that ends up being the case, I think we could potentially get a very, very good selling opportunity just to come down to the bottom of the range, which is somewhere within this region here. So watch out for that. Also remember that there's also a possibility price can break above this region to the upside. If it does and holds above, then I guess the selling opportunities within here could be a bit tricky. So you could easily find price maybe coming back all the way till within this region here. But there are also quite a number of SNRs that maybe potentially the market could potentially also come back until. But ideally, based on what's happening right now and the story of price, the sellers do look like they're already in the game. The buyers are struggling coming up. Let's just hope they just tap in, within that region there, and hopefully we do get some very, very good selling opportunities on that one. So moving on into the next one, this is the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the 4 areas I had pointed out. Of course, the 3 major levels and 1 bonus level within here. And yesterday morning price was here. I pointed out that we could get price coming back in within this region. If we didn't get a reaction there was some sort of an SNR here that I pointed out for the guys who are real snipers on the charts, and you can't be able to get the buys within this region. So price tapped back in within this area here, came back up, but you can't see that the big boys have not really showed up just quite yet. So we will be waiting to see what happens, at least if price can break above this region to the upside and we get a proper hold, especially after the market does and gives us a nice strong breach to the upside. I think we could get a very, very good buying opportunity at that point in time back within here. So let's just hope that during the London session, the market breaks to the upside, pulls back in. Hopefully, if the market is back within here at around 4:30, 5:30, because that's when the indices normally tend to really move a lot, especially during the New York Stock Exchange open. I think we could get a very good buy, and hopefully the US big boys will potentially end up giving us that push to the upside. I mean, the market went to the upside quite aggressively on Monday, and all through yesterday, the market was on the pullback, just coming back in within here. But the big boys who had pushed the market up on Monday have not yet checked back into the scene. So we'll be hoping they do come back into the scene, hopefully today, and maybe they will be attempting to take out their previous record, which was somewhere within here the last time when they were in the market. So if the market breaks above that region, well and good, but ideally just make sure that you do watch out for that region at the top right there. So also watch out for this region at the bottom. There's also a possibility price can come back in within there. I think considering the fact that price already tapped back in within this region, I think this region is now null and void. So we can easily end up getting rid of it. In case the market comes back in within there, I think it might end up going for a much better price. So moving on into the second last thing we look at, which is silver. So for silver, yesterday and today, the bus is to look for buying opportunities. Of course, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR. So if we end up looking at what the game plan was yesterday before we look at what it is today. So yesterday, the red SNR was here. We had one yellow SNR up there, and we had the semi-aggressive conservative region here. So we're expecting either price to pull back in within this region, which it did not, or possibly the market going up higher and coming back on the pullback within this particular region, potentially getting a buy within here. You can see that price did actually move to the upside, came back in, gave us a retest within there, and it's good to see from the screenshots. Charlotte did get a good buying opportunity within this particular region here. But you can see that the market has really struggled to push to the upside, but the bias still remains to the upside. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So watch out for that region there. We do have the semi-aggressive conservative region here. We do have the aggressive higher up within this particular area. So for as long as we're holding above this region to the upside, the bias is still to look for buys. You can see that the buyers within here are still holding. And you can see that the sellers came down aggressively. The buyers shot to the upside. The sellers still came down. But the buyers within this region are still maintaining. And you can see that earlier today, there was this sign of a big boy, that showed up within this particular region. You can see that the sellers have attempted to push down, the buyers still showing up, and you can see signs and wicks. If I do zoom in within this particular region, you can see that there are some wicks within here, which tells us that there's still pressure from the bottom side to actually push the market to the upside. So let's wait and see if we could get the market tapping back in within here. Some of our team are in some buying opportunities, and I think they're targeting higher up within this particular region. If we do break to the upside, we'll see what type of breach we do get within here, potentially maybe to end up getting some more conservative buying opportunities. But let's wait and see what ends up happening. If the market doesn't pull back within this area here, to give some proper buys, you could find that maybe the buys might actually happen off this area. But this is quite aggressive, unless you're a real cowboy on the charts. If you do hit the buys here, maybe keeping your stops within this particular region. But I don't know if the risk to reward will be worth it. So we're looking at about 10 pips going up. If you end up having a stop loss of about 7, 8 pips, the risk to reward might not really be worth it. So unless maybe the market comes in a bit low and maybe you could keep your stops within this particular region here. But it does seem like the market is about to take off to the upside. Alternatively, you could go down a smaller time frame, maybe to the 3-minute time frame, to try and get and see whether you can get those stop losses a bit tighter. But that's quite sniper, if I do say so, and quite aggressive. Unless you're highly skilled on the charts, I wouldn't really advise you. Possibly just wait and see if you could get the market coming in a bit lower, possibly breach to the upside. And of course, since we're looking at so many things, you also don't need to force anything on any one particular currency pair. So you don't really need to force issues on silver. There are very many other things that we're looking at. The euro against the US dollar and the Great British Pound against the US dollar seem like some very, very good opportunities. So you don't really need to force issues on silver. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, yesterday, the bar was to try to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. We're expecting maybe price to come back in within this region for us to look for the buys. And of course, there was also this other region right here that I had pointed out that potentially we could have gotten the market coming down until. But it seems that gold has really been moving and the pullbacks have been very shallow. But at least the good thing about it is that the market is actually trending. You can see that it breaks a level, pulls back within levels. So you can see that somewhere within here, somewhere within here, somewhere within this region broke to the upside, pulled back in. Similar situation within this area here. So even if it didn't come back in exactly within this region, there were quite a number of buying opportunities, and it's good to see from the screenshots. I think Charlotte did also end up getting a buying opportunity on gold. So gold is moving up higher. You can see that right now the market is still attempting to push up even higher. Yesterday, I pointed out that gold is definitely picking up momentum. If you look at how it went from 2,000 to 3,000, it only took a year, whereby from, I think from 1,000 to 2,000, it took about 15 years. And I think from $17, which is where it began on the charts, all the way till $1,000, it took about 174 years, from 1835 all the way to 2009. So right now, gold is the highest it's ever been. It's definitely continuing to move up higher. There's a possibility we might end up seeing the market hit 4,000 this year. The market is really picking up a lot of steam, especially considering the fact that the main central bank that controls all the central banks in the world, I think they have allowed the central banks in the world to actually have more gold reserves. And I think that's the reason why gold has actually been going up and picking up a lot of steam, especially since the beginning of this year. So potentially we could find the market continuing to move up higher. So let's wait and see what happens. So for this one, it seems like the market has broken this region to the upside. Earlier, when we're looking at this chart with the tin price was actually somewhere within here. So right now, it seems like it's broken to the upside, pulled back in. It's already attempting to move up higher, but I wouldn't really advise you to end up looking for the buys just yet, because you don't know what type of reaction these sellers will definitely end up giving you. So it's better to wait for the market to continue rallying up higher. I mean, you still could get the pullback coming back in within this region. You can see that the market has been trending up higher and higher. So just give those sellers the benefit of doubt. Alternatively, of course, if the market comes in back within this region, we could get a proper pullback. We can't read. It's not guaranteed that the pullback will come back in all the way to within here. But there are definitely quite a number of SNRs, within this area right here that the market might potentially just tap back in before it continues moving to the upside, maybe trying to stop out those late buyers who are checking into the market as the market continues to move up higher. So let's wait and see what does end up happening. Gold is a very expensive commodity right now. $3,000 an ounce. I think an ounce is about 28 grams or thereabout. So a kilogram of gold is going for about, I think, 13.5 million Kenya shillings, about $105,000 or something like that. A bar of gold, which is about, I think, 12 kgs, is about $1.3 million. So in case the Gen Zs want to do another protest, instead of going to parliament, maybe they should try going to the treasury. I think also in Kenya, we do have some gold there. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So I don't, any Subaru boys coming for me. So looking at the chat box, and of course, for anyone who didn't get a screenshot of the watch list, feel free to take note of that. That's what the watch list is looking like today. So looking at the chat box, I'm seeing Esther Kabiro there saying, good morning, Tim. Good morning, Esther. Hope you're well. Good to see you here. And I'm not seeing anything else, which is perfectly fine. So I guess everything else is clear. In case it's not, feel free to rewatch the webinar or the session on YouTube. It's there. Also, remember to give us a like and a subscribe when you're there. It does end up helping out our channel. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. So with that, happy trading, guys, and bye for now. May the peeps be with you. God bless.